and Combating Human Trafficking, and also Ms. Oluwasheni Ayodeji Oshowobi, the Executive Director of STIR, which means Stand to End Rape Initiative. If you could join me, please, on the floor. A round of applause for them. I need in the middle? Okay, sure. All right, as our session states, we're going to focus on how best can we manage returns policy. How do we balance the returns and other durable solutions? I'm going to go straight directly to our panelists so that we can keep time, and starting from my left side with Ambassador Amir El-Sherbini. I would like to know from you, what are the conditions for returnees that are there in place, and looking at the fact that the African Union president is the president of Egypt. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Actually, return, it's the most important part of the durable solution, and it needs to be balanced with the other dimensions for finding a solution for the situation of refugees. And return need to be in safety and in dignity. This is the two main aspects for the return. And to reach this situation, we have a number of conditions that we need to fulfill. First, we need a secure environment for the return. We need safety for those people who will be returned. We need protection and humanitarian situations that allows them to return. And we need political situation as well, political solutions. We need political processes. We need to have reconciliation. We need to have situations that allows them to go back. It's not just easy. Actually, I would like to recall what was mentioned by our brother just concerning Africa talks. It's not just to tell them go back and return. The return need to be accompanied with a series of measures and situations that allows them to go back really and to find this dignity and safety. Do we have this applicable or not? Actually, it's not. I think this is my personal opinion as well. It's not 100% guaranteed. You have a political process, you have an agreement, and then the return, it's part of the implementation of the agreement, and people return back. But still there is a humanitarian suffering, which will require a kind of studying and more treatments in the coming, in the future. So this is the main three conditions for return and for having a safety and dignity return.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Amir, and I totally agree with you. And this just comes in to touch a bit on what you've mentioned on some of the durable solutions and conditions already in place. We have Ms. Oluwasheni. You've already been working on different interventions to manage returnees in Nigeria. Could you share with us a bit on a highlight on how best those solutions are working in Nigeria and how other countries can replicate, but not only replicate, but how can we create this more as an integrated policy within Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. I've been working in the area of migration for the past 2 years, and I've been working specifically with victims of human trafficking and returned migrants. And there are a couple of interventions that are available to them. And the first is to voluntarily return to their countries of origin, which is Nigeria. So the federal government and a number of stakeholders partner together to return these migrants home using a charter flight. And while they return at the airport, there are several services available to them. First is the medical services for those who have medical conditions from either Libya or any other countries they are returning from. They also have food, there's overnight accommodation, there's also onward transportation for those who are traveling outside Lagos, because Lagos is where they all come to. For those going to Edo State, Delta State, Ogun State, and other states in Nigeria. So when they return home, within the space of 2 weeks, I worked as a case worker. So the process is for you to call these returned migrants, to check on them, to know how their progress, how they've settled into their community, and then ask them, what do you want? Which is one of the best strategies I've seen that have worked. It's not just creating programs and policies for returned migrants without actually understanding what their needs are. So we ask them, what do you want? And some would say, oh, I want to return to school. I want to start up a business. I want to take care of my children. These are my needs. And so we provide support to them based on the needs that they have. But while that is great, there are also some challenges with that as well. And I want to use a specific case of a returned migrant I worked with. So she was brought back to Nigeria. She was set up with a business. But when I went back to her after 2 years to monitor her progress, I realized that she was using the reintegration money from her business to take care of her mother who had cancer or who has cancer. So while we've reintegrated her, it's not sustainable because she's using the money to care for a sick relative. And that's because the healthcare system does not have enough mechanisms in place to support such a situation. So it's helping them return home, but not sustainably reintegrating them. And that's one of the challenges that we are working on currently. Another support that we give to them is in-kind assistance. So there's some people who will tell you, I just want to get a home. I want to go back to my country, my community of origin, and I want to settle in. I want to have my own property. I want to have shelter over my head. So we help them get shelter and settle them in. There's another program called community-based reintegration, which is ensuring that if you have returned migrants from one specific community, about 20 or 40 of them, it's not really sustainable if you integrate them individually, because one person can decide to do foodstuff business, another person will do fashion. So it's competing, for various customers. However, if you're able to integrate the community, perhaps they have land, and then you realize what are the things that they don't have in this community that is a business venture, and then you speak to the returnees about it, and they are receptive, or they can tell you, this is what works in our community. Can you set us up with this one? And all of them together are working, employing people in their communities, to sort of pay forward to the community, but also ensuring that the reintegration is sustainable. Another reintegration is cash assistance. While this is great, this is my personal opinion, I necessarily do not support cash assistance, because what I've realized is you give return migrants this money, they have so many needs. So right now, one neighbor is coming to them, oh, I loaned you money to travel, give me my money. They're using it to settle their debts. They're using it to pay for so many things that are not beneficial to them or their reintegration. So those are some of the programs that we've run for the past 2 years.
Thank you, Ms. Oluwasheni. So what I'm getting from you is the fact that how do we build sustainable returnees programs and initiatives, cultivate them into being more productive and contributing to the community and country. But what I want more in details to get from Ambassador Amir El-Shabini is, I want to know from your end, and based on your position as the Deputy Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, what challenges come with returnees, and what support can the international community do? And apart only from the international community, what support can the RECs, member states, and the African Union, including other INGOs and CSOs, even citizens themselves, because we also have a role to play, what can we do to curb such challenges?
Thank you. Actually, first I want to go back to the solution. To have a solution, we have, for a refugee, we have 3 things: return, integration in the host country, or resettlement in a different country. Return, this is pending to the conditions that I mentioned, and integration, this is most likely the situations that we have in number of cases, and resettlement, which is not an easy one, and the doors are more closed and closed to resettle in certain countries. So we need to go back to return as main issues that we need to push and to find and to make it balanced with the other two solutions. And to do that and to reach the return, we need to address the challenges that come with them. Actually, if there will be a return, you need to map the area. Those people who will return, they will return where? This will come with an issue of land, of property, of they are returning back to their main areas from the origin area where they used to live, or they will go back to be resettled, they will return and be resettled in a different area which is not their own. There will be a host community issue. Are they okay with the community that they will go to live in the same area with, or there will be a kind of dispute over land, over heritage, things like that? So this is a kind of challenge that needs to be addressed. It's an issue of the host of the country of origin that will receive those people back, their own citizens coming back. But at the same time, this will not be settled without a political solution, without a real reconciliation and dialogue between the government and the community, and listening to those people returning back to their homeland. As well, this will require support, regional support from the regional community, from here, for example, if I was speaking about our African continent, here the RECs will have a role to play, and the regional surrounding will have a role to play to support the country of origin in receiving back their own citizens, refugees returning back to their country, as well as the continental dimension. And here we will have the issue of the conflict, of the political dimension of the conflict settlements as well. The challenge is not only political, it's humanitarian and financial as well. You need to have an adequate financial resources to support the return of those people and integrate them really in the life, not just to return them back and giving them an allowance of money and telling, okay, you are back home, it's over and it's so. This is not an issue, and it's not enough to have our own resources, but we will need a support from the international community, I believe, as well in this kind of situation. And as well, security, this is another challenge. You need to have security, and security, it's not the security like the security of the country, but the local security itself in the local area where you have the people going back, and how we can have this kind of secure environment for them to return and to live in dignity and safety.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador. Just to touch on the key areas you've mentioned, the issue of security, the need for returnees to feel they're safe and secure, their governments not to discriminate them or other members of the community to stigmatize them. This is something that is really key. But I'd like to turn out and twist the tables a bit. I want to go back to the audience and hear from the audience. What do you have to share with our panelists here on the floor? Do you have any comments, advice, or any solutions that you can provide on how best we can create the balances and manage returnees when it comes to policies and the issues on the ground? So I'm going to take a show of hands I've already seen some, so I'm just going to start with the lady from the back, and we have a gentleman in white on the other side, and the one next to you, and the gentleman over there. The first five, and then I'll come to member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you to the two speakers that have started this conversation. I think what I wanted to add, especially when we're talking about returnees, the issue that we are having is that it's easy to just bring people back. People are still leaving, number one. They get back on the boats and they go back. Why? They don't want to stay. The socioeconomic conditions in the country of origin where they come back to is not sustainable for these young people to come back and get jobs and work. Secondly, the reintegration programs lacks strategic mental health and psychosocial support as part of support services provided. We are talking about people who've been traumatized by the people in their own country. Through the process of displacement, we have people who are victims of rape, violence, further traumatization. Once they get to their host countries, another level of traumatization. In none of those spaces or in those areas, as part of any form of support, is mental health and psychosocial support a priority. I think we've heard about it from other refugees talking about that big gap that exists when we're talking about support services. And so when you're trying to tell us that returnees are coming and they'll be happy coming back, we're working in Gambia. People are scared to come back to the Gambia. Just because there's a new dispensation doesn't mean that the perpetrators that were there during the dictatorship does not exist. The dictator was not the problem. Systems are the problem. Systems oppress, not just people. So if the systems don't change to better the lives of people, they're not going to stay. So I think these are just some of the things that we need to talk about and be honest about. But I just want to really highlight the fact that when we talk about services for people coming back, we need to include mental health and psychosocial support as integral and key in facilitating their reintegration.
Thank you. The gentleman on the far left. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Abdullah Ifai. I work with the Gambia Red Cross Society, a humanitarian organization. Of course, what I want to ask is that looking at the existing legal policy strategies and implementation frameworks, do we think that the current situation is enough to integrate, to ensure that the rights of refugees, IDPs, returnees can be guaranteed? Thank you.
Thank you. And who was next? You are next.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Mustafa Salah, a returning migrant from Libya. Through my experience, the name assisted voluntary return and reintegration is not as what it is. Because in Libya, we were living in a very serious situation, horrible situation. The only option given to us was to go back home, which is not voluntary to us, because situation like my sister out there said, situation in our country of origin does not change. After coming back, many people left back to Libya. So, and the reintegration program also is a process. It's not about just giving you an amount of money to restart your life when you lost almost everything you had before you went back. And coming back also, losing your house, that money will not able to sustain you to stay there. So the best thing you can do, if you are not strong, is to go back to where you think you can make your life better. So I think the reintegration is a continuous process, and psychosocial support also should be given to the returnees, because in my experience in the Gambia, that was not given to us. If at all we the returnees don't come together to support ourselves, it will be difficult for us to be reintegrated into the society. So I think the name AVVR should be reconsidered. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me just move to my left, to my right-hand side, and I'll come back to Morocco. I noticed you had a question. The gentleman at the back, or was it a lady?
Merci.
Is it one?
Je m'appelle Marc Boukourou, je suis du Burundi. Je suis aussi chargé de programme de formation au sein d'Initiative et Changement en Afrique. Mais pour le moment, je vais m'exprimer en tant que chef de projet qui traite de l'assistance des retournés de la Tanzanie, un projet financé par l'Organisation internationale des migrations, OIM. Quand vous parlez de la manière dont il faut réintégrer les retournés, je suis d'accord avec les premiers intervenants qui disent qu'il faudrait qu'on les offre des services de santé mentale, mais aussi il ne faut pas oublier leur autonomisation du fait que, selon ce que nous constatons au Burundi, les retournés viennent de la Tanzanie, après 5 mois, 6 mois, ils y retournent parce que, premièrement, deux fois, ils se seraient déplacés du fait de leur insécurité, non seulement politique, mais aussi ils ont une insécurité alimentaire. Et quand ils reviennent de la Tanzanie et qu'ils réalisent que les conditions de réinsertion socio-économique ne sont pas favorables, après 6 mois, on assiste à ce genre de mouvement. Et comme recommandation, c'est une question de recommandation que je voudrais adresser à l'endroit de l'Union africaine ou même à l'endroit de des organisateurs de cette session. Est-ce que vous avez pensé ou vous avez impliqué dans cette organisation de cet événement l'Organisation internationale des migrations? Sinon, je trouve un peu paradoxe de traiter des questions des réfugiés, des rapatriés, sans que vous vous concertiez avec l'OIM et que ce soit un clin d'œil pour d'autres événements à venir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Can I get 2 more last questions for this round so that we can give our panelists a chance to respond back? I'll take the gentleman over there and Morocco, please.
Thank you so much. Just I want to remind you that according to the protocol, the floor should be given to the state member before any other organization. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Shall I? No, I have...
you have a question?
I have a question.
Okay, please proceed.
مساء الخير. أولا شكرا. إن مشكلة النزوح من المشكلات التي تؤرق الضمير الإنساني، بل من التحديات التي يواجهها المجتمع الدولي وإفريقيا بشكل خاص، خاصة إذا عرفنا أن هذه الفئات من المجتمع تتعرض، الفئات الهشة تتعرض لانتهاكات متكررة لحقوقهم.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Interpretation.
There's no translation.
There is no?
Oh, yes.
Shall I repeat?
Yes, please start.
Thank you. قلت مساء الخير. إن مشكلة النزوح من المشكلات التي تؤرق الضمير الإنساني، بل من التحديات التي يواجهها المجتمع الدولي وإفريقيا بشكل خاص، خاصة إذا عرفنا أن هذه الفئات من المجتمع الهشة تتعرض لانتهاكات متكررة لحقوقهم. إن حق العودة الطوعية هي حق من الحقوق التي تكفله جميع المواثيق الدولية للنازحين واللاجئين. العودة الطوعية هي طريقة كريمة للعودة إلى الوطن وإعادة الاندماج، وهي استمرار للحياة وبداية جديدة. هي ليست ظاهرة جديدة. العودة المدعومة لها فوائد كثيرة كما قيل: تشجيع وإعادة الإدماج المستدام، تشجع إعادة الإدماج وتدعم التنمية والاستقرار. بالإضافة إلى ذلك فإن المساعدة على العودة الطوعية المدعومة تقلل من ميل الأشخاص الذين حصلوا على قرار لجوء سلبي في البلد المضيف، وتبعدهم عن خطر التهميش والإجرام والمعاملة السيئة من قبل المتجرين بالبشر. سؤالي: ماذا يفعل الاتحاد الإفريقي على دعم العودة الطوعية للنازحين واللاجئين؟ شكراً.
All right, I'll just rephrase that a bit on the last part for my counter-panelist because the translator wasn't working. So just the key point, what does the African Union do to manage returnees on this part? So just that, and I'm sure Ambassador Emile El-Sharbini will touch base on that more. Just to get back to the panelists, if we could have some response to some of the questions. I noticed others were recommendations, which are well taken, starting with Ambassador Emile El-Sharbini.
Thank you. First, I want to stress that return should be voluntary. This is the base for any return. It should be voluntary, and it should be upon request from the persons, the refugees themselves. They have to go and they have to have the situations that allows them to return voluntary and safely to their homeland. I want just to react to some remarks that they were made from the floor. Okay, about integration in the host country. Yes, it's very important to have an integration approach, but this is not the solution. Because once you will keep them in the host country, you will keep the refugees, you will still have the problem as it is. You have the refugees staying in the host country, you have the situation not settled, so that's why return need to be much more addressed. And this is will bring me back to the issue of the political settlements and the political and the nexus between humanitarian political settlements and peace and security. And maybe this is what we need to address more in the African Union, this nexus between peace and security, humanitarian, and peace and security, humanitarian, and conflicts. And maybe this will be the answer for the question from the distinguished delegates from Morocco. I think we need to do more on the African level regarding the issue of return. It's not, we have a lot of doctrine, documents of doctrine in the African Union, but we need to go to implement. And for the return, it's not a continental issue. It's much more an issue related to each conflict. And there is no one size fits all. You need to go back and to see what is the situation on the ground, what are the actors in the conflict, and how you can find the solution to this conflict, including the return dimension. But this do not mean that we don't address it on the continental and the regional dimension as well. And here I want to mention another point as well concerning the assisted voluntary return and the question about the IOM. The IOM and the International Organization for Migration and UNHCR, both of them, they are doing a very important work regarding the assisted voluntary return and the resettlement or the repatriation of refugees. But it could not be an answer for what we have, because it will be linked to the countries who will receive, and the numbers, it's numbers of hundreds, thousands, but it do not correspond with the numbers of thousands and millions of refugees that we have in Africa. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Emile El-Sharbini. Ms. Oluwareshin, I would like you to respond to some of the questions which are also grasped on, especially related to how do we help returnees on mental health aspect and also social accountability. So how could you give that feedback to the audience, and how best can we manage returnees in that aspect?
Thank you very much. Just to speak about mental health support for returned migrants. Like you rightly said, IOM, which is the UN Migration Agency, actually provides mental health support to returned migrants in Nigeria. And a number of civil society organizations as well understand the importance of providing therapy and mental health support to return migrants. And I have actually attended some of the trainings, some of the sessions with some of the return migrants, and it's been very helpful. So I totally agree with that it's very important to have that. But I just want to quickly address the issue of the prospects and what works best going forward. Like we all know, migration is constant. Everyone wants to move from a place to another, either for opportunities or, maybe my marriage, whatever the situation is. People need to move. But what we need to talk about is, why are people moving en masse? And why are they moving through irregular channels? And when I read a report by the UN in 2019, they interviewed a number of Africans, and 95% of them said they will return to Libya or to any other European country, even despite knowing the challenges with irregular migration. That means there is a problem. We can't keep creating policies and programs just to accommodate returnees alone. We need to address what are the reasons, what are the push and pull factors that make migrants or potential migrants want to go outside the country irregularly. And for those who are going regularly, how are the other countries accommodating them, especially within African countries? So if I, as a Nigerian, for example, I have a Nigerian passport, I want to go to South Africa to work. What are the conditions in those countries? What are the policies that allow me to work without going through very, I don't want to say retrogressive, but very strict policies and systems? Because I've heard from a lot of return migrants who intended to go to a country through regular means, but because they were not able to get their papers on time, they were unable to get their documentation, they became irregular migrants even though they traveled through regular means. So we need to begin to look at what are those conditions that will put other Africans through. Over the past few days during the youth consultation, a lot of people kept saying, why do I as an African need to apply for a visa to a certain country, whereas someone from an European country can gain access, free entrance or entry into the country. We need to look at the policies that we have. Yes, we have policies on ground, but how are they being implemented to better the lives of potential migrants and even migrants or irregular migrants, as the case may be? And taking from the point of my African brother who spoke last during the Africa talk, he talked about Namibia actually owning him, giving him a space to reintegrate locally. How many countries do that? I mean, I might need to read further on this, but I don't know a lot of African countries who let you or who allow you to integrate locally. Rather, they'll tell you voluntary return to your country. Africa is a continent, but we are just divided by borders. We are one nation, one country, one people. And so our policies in place and our systems need to enable more people travel across different countries, be able to get jobs, and if they don't want to return to their country of origin, maybe due to war or to conflict that has not really been resolved, we should be able to accommodate them within the host communities. Or we can begin to talk about what are the factors pushing most of our people out of their countries, and how can we make our economy stable? Because if you bring people back through reintegration, but then the economic situation of the country is not stable, they still want to go back, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to survive, and survival has economic impact and implications.
Thank you. So a borderless Africa, which is free and has more access to free movement, how do we go about that? Can we have the last round of hands, because this session has been cut a bit short and we're trying to make sure we finish our sessions today timely. A show of hands, please. The gentleman over there. Yes, I had picked you up. Who else? One of the member states over there. And then the two gentlemen. Is that a lady that's right at the end? The two gentlemen. And is that Libya? Yes, and Libya. So can we start with Libya and Malawi? I've heard you say it a lot of Malawi. And then we have the gentleman over there and two more on the far left. Okay. All right. So we're going to have Libya, Sahrawi, and Malawi first, and then we're going to come to the overall audience.
شكرا الأخت المسيرة للجلسة، وشكرا أيضا لمقدمي العروض على طرحهم المستوفي والواضح. أود فقط الإشارة إلى ما شد انتباهي لمأساة مواطن من غامبيا، حيث أشار بأنه كان في ليبيا، كان يطمح في no translation. No? Okay.
Yes, but can we get one more translator on the podium? One is not working. You may proceed. We just need one more equipment.
شكرا الأخت المسيرة على إدارتك للحوار، وشكر أيضا لمقدمي العروض الواضحة والمستوفية. ما شد انتباهي هو مداخلة المواطن الأفريقي من غامبيا تقريبا، حيث أشار بأنه تعرض لمأساة في بلدي. كان يطمح أن يتلقى الطموح الذي سافر من أجلها وركب مخاطر الهجرة. ربما كان يطمح أن يصل الدول الأوروبية أو ما شابه، ولكنه تمت استرجاعه رغما عنه أو بغير رغبته في العودة يعني. هذا ما يؤكد ما ذكرته بالأمس، لأن الظرف الذي تعيشه بلدي ليس أقصد بالبيئة الجاذبة لهكذا وضع، ولأن النزاعات أو الوضع الأمني السيء لا يشجع أي مواطن أفريقي لركوب مخاطر الهجرة، وبالتالي هذا ما نؤكد عليه وأكدنا عليه بالأمس. يجب إيجاد مشاريع تنموية صغيرة في البلدان التي ينطلق منها المهاجرون من أجل توطينهم. أنا متأكد جدا بأن لو أتيحت هذه المشاريع الصغيرة التنموية في البلدان التي ينطلق منها المهاجرون، سيكون حال المواطن الأفريقي أفضل بكثير مما هو يسعى إليه في ركوب مخاطر الهجرة، سواء كان لليبيا أو عبر ليبيا إلى أوروبا. فهي ليست جنة موعودة حسب اعتقاد الكثير من الأفارقة للأسف. بلدانهم أفضل لهم بكثير مما هم يطمحون إليه. وشكرا أخت المسير.
Thank you so much. Sahrawi?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and I also commend you the manner in which you are moderating our session, and I'd like to commend both presenters. And it's nice to see you, Amir, Ambassador Amir, in the Parliament. I have a comment to make. Number one, I agree 100% to that, the root of causes help us to find a solution to refugees or IDPs or returnees. The end of this stages is the returnee of the refugees on why they are returning. That means the problem is being found, it's a solution, which means durable solution. This solution can be reflected in an agreement, in the political circumstances, an agreement between the parties concerned, which allow the refugees to return back. I agree on the question that, refugees or returnees in general need to have, need to be voluntary, need to be in dignified manner. And the problem here, in a conflict where the political solution being found between the parties at the conflict, the mechanism by the international community or by the continental community of enforcement of the agreed agreement between the parties. If one party pulled out in the middle of the implementation of our agreement, what should be the reaction of the international community? There is a lacuna here. If two parties agreed on a settlement where the refugees will be returning or the IDPs will be returning, in this case, the parties may be the community of IDPs and the government in concern, or between the two countries in or two member states in the continent agreed on an agreement and one of them did not fulfill its obligation? What would be the reaction of the international community? There is a gap of the enforcement of the agreed agreement between the two parties. I think, yes, indeed, it's a voluntary return. It's a part of the political solution in the conflict area. But also my colleague from Libya has mentioned something very important. You know, to contribute to reduce people leaving countries, you need to provide development. But development needs peace. And peace needs to have a good governance. That means there is, you know, linkage. There is a chain of good government, peace, and development. All of these elements is very important to take into consideration. But the most important point which I would like to flag here is the mechanism of enforcement of agreement. Any agreement needs to have a mechanism of enforcement. If one party refuses to continue the implementation of an agreement or settlement agreement, the international community should have sanction element in it. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Harari. Before I move to Malawi, I think Equatorial Guinea had a question. So I'd like to welcome you, then move to Malawi, then we go back to the gentleman over there and the other two participants who are on my far left.
Merci, Madame. Merci, Madame la modératrice. Merci, je pense que ça va. Ok, effectivement, je veux profiter pour féliciter les panélistes pour la clarification de leurs réponses. Je suis d'accord avec l'ambassadeur Amir, ambassadeur de mon frère, ambassadeur de Sahraoui, ont confirmé ça, de reconnaître effectivement que le repatriement, c'est une solution durable. C'est-à-dire, si on arrive aujourd'hui à garantir un repatriement juste, équitable, global de tous les réfugiés, de tous les répatriés dans notre continent, nous aurons 100 réfugiés, 100 répatriés. Donc c'est une solution durable à travailler, à encourager. Et donc ceci est effectivement important qu'on doit, cet thème a été intégré dans ce programme de travail. Qu'est-ce que l'Union africaine fait? Effectivement, l'Union africaine travaille comme une organisation continentale pour traiter des problèmes de l'Afrique. On a parlé aussi des besoins de ratification de différents instruments juridiques dont cette institution continentale a établi, comme la Convention de OUA, qui régit spécifiquement des questions propres des réfugiés et répatriés. Dans notre continent seulement, 45 pays ont ratifié cette convention. On devrait effectivement continuer à travailler pour que tous les pays puissent ratifier cette convention. Dans son article 5, qui parle effectivement aussi, comme l'ambassadeur Amin avait bien souligné, de repatriement volontaire. En tant qu'Africain, effectivement, il faut des instruments bien clairs, bien précis, des accords comme mon ambassadeur, mon cher ami et frère ambassadeur Sahraoui bien indiqué. Il faut que les accords soient bien précisés, soient bien établis, soient aussi respectés. Je suis aussi d'accord avec Madame de Nigeria pour partager avec nous l'expérience de Nigeria. Peut-être, étant donné que chaque pays a des spécificités, peut-être il y aura mieux de voir beaucoup d'expérience pour savoir qu'est-ce qui se passe dans tous les pays dans le cadre précis de repatriement dans leur. J'ai vécu, je connais le cas du Congo, Congo-Brazzaville. Donc, nous avons beaucoup de réfugiés qui viennent du Rwanda précisément. L'État rwandais, effectivement, fait beaucoup pour que cette répatriés, réfugiés rwandais au Congo puissent retourner au Rwanda. Mais ce n'est pas facile à garantir cet rapatriement malgré les efforts politiques, l'encouragement, la justice, l'effort politique pour l'intégrer. Peut-être il y a aussi une dimension morale de sympathie, parce que nous sommes humains. Quand quelqu'un vit dans un endroit pendant plus de 10 ans, il peut se sympathiser avec cet endroit et ne pas avoir la sympathie de retourner malgré son pays. Donc il faut effectivement beaucoup d'instruments qui puissent être mis en place pour gérer cette question de rapatriement des réfugiés et des pays. Parce que effectivement c'est une des solutions durables que nous avons avec ces groupes de populations africaines. On doit travailler, on doit continuer à travailler pour que tout réfugié, tout répatrié puisse être en mesure d'être intégré dans le continent africain, soit en retournant chez eux, soit en restant dans les pays d'accueil. Merci beaucoup, Madame la modératrice.
Thank you so much, Secretary Rupini. Can we just move to Malawi and the last couple of hands I had pointed out earlier? Malawi, do you still have a question or comment?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Madam Moderator. And thank you indeed our panelists for their presentations. Yes, I would just first of all to respond to the Madam Presenter for asking as to whether indeed there are some countries that have actually adopted, have also an example of Namibia. I'm pleased to mention that Malawi has had a chance of actually giving a lady student who had done very well in our country. We gave her a scholarship to China because she had scored amongst all the students in Malawi. She had scored, I should say, one of the best students, lady students in Malawi. She had come to Malawi with her grandparents who also died in Malawi. So she was almost alone. She was just alone. And the Malawi government had really given her an opportunity to go to China. She's now back to Malawi. And of course, there was no reason for us to ask her to go back home because she managed to get a job. And as I'm talking now, she's actually working as a doctor at one of our main hospitals in Malawi. Yes, now let me also, secondly, I would like just to mention that where Malawi had a very wonderful example of voluntary repatriation of 1.2 million refugees who were in Malawi from 1986 to 1994. They returned home in dignity after a series of meetings between Malawi government and Mozambican government as well as UNHCR. They returned. Despite their big numbers, they returned home in dignity and in safety. However, we have also another challenge at present. Yes, I take a note seriously from our presenters that repatriation must be voluntary. It must remain voluntary. We have had a number of discussions with our colleagues from Rwanda regarding repatriation. Since 2003, we have been negotiating. We have had chances of go and see, come and tell missions, but we have not succeeded. Some of the refugees, or I should say most of them, the majorities are not eager to go back home. And the things being as they are, well, definitely there is no way the two governments can actually force them to go back home. So we have such kind of a situation whereby, yes, we have actually talked to the refugees concerned that where the chances for them to go back home are there, and there are some incentives for them to go back, but they themselves have decided not to go. And in that situation, we are left out as governments. We cannot do anything else because they themselves are not eager to go back home, and we cannot force, since we are bound by this tradition that voluntary, it must be voluntary repatriation, and no force has to be utilized. I thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you very much indeed for.
Thank you so much. So I think we only have one last member state, that is Morocco, and then all protocols will be observed. We move to the audience. Morocco, may you proceed?
Thank you, Madame Moderator. Merci beaucoup. Merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Je reviens aux solutions durables. En fait, toutes les solutions durables au problème des déplacés doivent prendre en considération plusieurs dimensions. La sécurité des personnes concernées, l'autonomisation, le respect des droits des personnes, la dignité, l'éducation, droits individuels, droits civils. Toute solution durable doit prendre en considération, elle doit être inclusive et compréhensive et holistique. Le retour volontaire sûr, c'est une solution parmi d'autres. Le retour volontaire et soutenu pour que ça soit une réussite. Sinon, concernant les solutions politiques, c'est important. C'est sûr? Non, ça marche pas. Alors, ok. Concernant les solutions politiques, c'est sûr, la solution politique et la volonté politique de toutes les parties, c'est très important pour faire aboutir n'importe quelle solution. Sauf en cas d'émergence, en cas d'urgence. Les solutions durables, conformément au droit international, ça signifie plusieurs choix pour les personnes en charge, pour les personnes concernées, que ce soit le retour, que ce soit la résidence, que ce soit la résidence dans un pays tiers. Seulement, les solutions durables pour les réfugiés revient à... Il y a certaines... Si on liait les solutions durables aux solutions politiques, parfois, et dans certains cas, ça fait éterniser la situation précaire des réfugiés et des déplacés. Lier les solutions politiques aux solutions durables, c'est tout simplement, dans certains cas, l'instrumentalisation de leur situation et une déviation du droit international. Rien ne justifie de maintenir les réfugiés dans une situation précaire en attendant une solution politique. Juste un dernier commentaire sur la ratification. Sur la ratification, on est tout à fait d'accord, la ratification à la signature d'un instrument est une volonté, mais le plus important, c'est la volonté d'exécuter ça, que ce soit sur le plan, surtout sur le plan national. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Morocco. I had Sahrawi Republic, I'll come back to you. I had a gentleman over there and the gentleman on the other side and the lady. If you all can proceed, and then we wrap up with Sahrawi Republic.
Thank you so much, moderator. And I work with the International Refugee Rights Initiative. My name is David Kigozi. Thank you for all those who have contributed to this issue of returns. It does resonate very well with the work of our organization, because we've had a number of researchers on this issue. But for the sake of time, I'll just concentrate on about 2 or 3 issues. First of all, I think returns should not be rushed. You'll find that in many instances, returns are rushed. And if these are voluntary returns in the countries, the host countries, why then should services be scaled down? For example, the food rations are reduced, the water is cut, the health services are scaled down, the education of children is stopped. And if it is going to be really something that is voluntary, then why do they stop all those services? Now, then the tripartite agreements, I think it's a bit unfair for the lives of thousands of people to be determined at the stroke of a pen when they themselves, they have not actually agreed 100% to go back to where they came from. I want to say that the issue of returns is not just a political and humanitarian, it's not just humanitarian and logistical process, but it is a political process which has so many dimensions, including security and social dimensions and cultural dimensions and other dimensions of conflict sensitivity that need to be taken into account. And the proposition that I'm making is that, and that is also the proposition of our researchers. We've made recommendations that before a return happens, there should be in-depth analysis on the ground of all the issues that are concerned, and information has to be totally verified. Now, I also wanted to say that the opinions of civil society have to be respected. And that's about the last point. Because the go and tell visits, we have experienced them. I will not name what exactly this was, but there is a time when we found that in some of the camps in Uganda, there were so many Burundians coming from Burundi, and yet they had come from Tanzania from a camp called Mtabila. And I think at about 5,000, after being in Burundi for a short time, they came to Uganda. We went to investigate that, and horrible stories were being told to us. And when we did raise the alert to the UNHCR and to other international actors, they said, no, we have already sent a go and tell visit to those people, and they said everything is okay, there's no problem in Burundi, and so they can go back. They went back, but within 1 year, about 1 year, the situation in Burundi, it became a problem. And again, of course, I know that many people came out of that situation. So, two things. In-depth analysis before there is a return, and then the issue of conflict sensitivity has to be examined in full. And all those things to do with, psychosocial treatment of people and mental health support have to be taken into account. Lastly, just to say that many returns for us, we find that they're just veiled refoulement processes because all these issues have not been adequately taken into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can I have the gentleman who raised his hand and the lady on with the scarf, the last one, and then Sahrawi Republic.
Okay. Thank you. Let me thank the presenters for a very good presentation made. And let me also thank the moderator for the I come from the ECOWAS region. While we know that resources are very lean, sometimes when we have returnees after a crisis, it may not be possible for each member state to provide what these returnees need for proper reintegration into the system. So at times we do what we call the regional approach. For instance, after the crisis we had in the ECOWAS region, which affected member states, there's this, what we call the PADEP fund, or the PADEP intervention. It has to do with peace and security funding, which we use to intervene in member states that were coming out from crisis. We were particular about member states, 4 member states as pilot project, which included Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. What we did was to make sure that those who were being reintegrated locally or those who were returning were taken care of, particularly in terms of finding them accommodation, looking for, helping them develop necessary skills, and also providing for the communities where they found themselves, so that they will not see the difference, between the communities and themselves. And this is part of the promotion of culture of peace in the ECOWAS region. So such best practices are good. When we take it from the regional perspective, this helps to settle what member states themselves are not capable of doing. So that's it's just a suggestion. Thank you.
The lady with the scarf.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you to the panelists. My question is, there's a brother from Somalia, I think yesterday he talked of the refugees in Kenya that were returned to Somalia. Because they're going to start let me just talk in general, like if in case another country decides to return forcefully, what has the AU put in place to help these people after they've left their countries and maybe they're taken back to their home countries, because that would only lead to another outbreak of IDP. And then the issue of security, not all refugees left their countries because they had nothing maybe to eat, or maybe everything was lost in the midst of war. But there are people that had everything, like their lives were complete, but then they left their home country because of the issues of security. How is the AU protecting them after they are taken back to maybe their home countries of origin? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sahrawi Republic, can you end the questions and comments from the floor for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to return back, and thank you for giving me the floor again. I'd just like to highlight again, that political solution which led, a political conflict which led to some refugee situation, and it should find a political solution to the return of the refugees in general term. However, when we talk about the right in international law and the respect of international law, I think the right of self-determination, one of the capital, part of that. We need to think about that first before we think about the solution for humanitarian crisis. The refugees, in particular in the Sahrawi refugees, not caused by famine or drought or climate change. It's caused by an occupation. And there is many solutions being provided when both parties, Morocco and Polisario, have agreed upon. Morocco has refused to implement the agreed agreement. That's the problem. It's not the solution for the refugees as a normal refugees. It is a political solution which which reached after many rounds of negotiation and supervised by United Nations and Special Envoys of United Nations. To ignore that and to focus only on humanitarian situation is completely wrong. We should take it as a part of the global conflict, not as just one angle. That is what I want to say. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Sahrawi Republic. Before I pass on to the panelists, I would like to appreciate the member states who have been part of driving the solution forward and giving out recommendations and best practices that have already been done in place, and what can we learn from all of this based on the audience's recommendations and questions. Going directly to Ambassador Amir El-Shabini, if you could respond briefly based on most of the questions that were directed to you, and then we'll come to Ms. Oluwashemi.
Thank you. Actually, I will start with Libya. The situation in Libya, yeah, I fully agree with the distinguished representative of Libya that we need to go to address the root causes of the problem. Why? And here I want to make a distinction between refugees and migrants, economic migrants. Why there was this waves of people who moved going to Libya and trying to reach Europe. We need to go and to address the root causes and to find the solution, because people will continue to be on the move. They will continue looking for situations that are better than what they have in their own countries. So this is an issue that needs to be addressed, addressing the root causes of the problems that push those people, economic mainly, problems that push those people to leave their country of origin and to move all that way on the way of migrations, going to Libya, trying to reach Europe. Actually, what we have right now is that there is no way to go to Europe. It's very difficult. Those people, they are stuck in Libya, and it's not an easy situation, and there are agreements for resettling, but it's not enough. So we need to address the root causes to stop the move as much as we can. And regarding the solution for refugees, here I will make again the distinction between three categories: refugees, migrants, and IDPs. And the solution for refugees, you have it's return, it's reintegration, or assessed resettlement. And it's pending according to each situation and to the will of the people, and to What conditions do we have exactly? So this was brief remarks that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Ms. Oluwasheni, based on your work on the ground and based on what the feedback we got from the floor, touching around CSO's work and hands down to the grassroots work, what feedback can you share with the audience based on their questions?
I just want to first acknowledge the representative from the ECOWAS for his contribution. That was a very valid point. And I want to tie that back into what the ambassador from Sahrawi Republic has said in terms of how do we hold each other accountable. I believe that if you're going to have returned migrants in a particular host country and their country of origin maybe is not accepting them back, or the migrants are saying we don't want to return to our country of origin, which is within their rights, we can work on collaborations where the host, the country of origin can be responsible partly for their citizens in the African country. Because I'm looking at it from a point of view of not overburdening the African country, the host country who is taking in the migrants or refugees or IDPs. We need to be able to collaborate with each other and provide support to each other. So something that the West African region is doing can also be applicable to East Africa and North African or other African regions. So that's a very fantastic collaboration. In terms of CSOs, a lot of CS organizations work on ground. And I can't begin to tell you about the challenges or the issues, but what works is so many CSOs understand their key strength, and there's collaboration in that space. So one CSO might be providing reintegration support, another is providing mental health support, another is doing job placement, internship, vocational training. It's a holistic support that is being provided by the different CS organizations, and that collaboration actually works, which is something that other countries perhaps can imbibe and work towards. And just to talk about what is voluntary return in itself. Working with over 2,000 migrants, returned migrants from Libya, one thing across board that I have heard from them is the fact that the host country is not conducive for them to live in, and that's why they are returning. It's not, in its sense, a voluntary return on their own. It's because the countries, some that put them in prison, treat them very badly, and they would rather go back to their country where they are sort of free but still suffering than actually be in jail and continue to suffer. So we need to actually redefine what voluntary return really is. At the host countries being, I don't want to use the very strong word to say mean, but are they receptive? Are they being receptive to return migrants, or are they actually pushing them to want to return and couch it as voluntary return? So that's something we need to think about.
Thank you so much. So I think we have the opportunity, we have our member states with us. How do we hold them to account? How do we learn from them? How do we interact with the representative from the member states within us during these 3 days to ensure that they inform the African Union and make changes that we need effectively? Thank you so much, Ambassador Amir El-Shabin. Thank you, Ms. Oluwasheni. I would like to close up this session and welcome Ambassador Salah to guide us through.
Thank you very much, moderator and members of the panel. You absolutely deserve another round of applause. Just remain, please, for a family photo, which will not take long. Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for lunch. Lunch today will not be served in the tent, in that tent. People are complaining of the mud, and I think it costs a lot to clean shoes nowadays. So today lunch will be served on the top of the other conference center. So when you leave the building, you will take the first right and proceed to the other conference center on the top. There is a restaurant there. That is where the lunch will be served. And lunch will be 1 hour. So now it is exactly 1:30. Please let's come back at 2:30 on the dot so we can continue with our program. Two quick announcements. For those who are yet to submit their financial claims and claims for ticket refunds, please see colleagues at the registration table for that purpose. This is one. For those who are also yet to bring or to submit their boarding passes and copy of their passports, please do the same and see our colleagues at the table there. Bon appetit. We'll see you at 2:30. Thank you very much.